Before we begin, find a quiet place where you can relax. This is a slow story, told in a steady voice, with no expectation that you stay awake. If your thoughts wander, that is normal. If you fall asleep, that is the point.
The journey begins in a quiet village at the edge of the Forgotten Kingdom, where the sun rises over stone walls and distant forests. The first light of dawn stretched lazily over the Forgotten Kingdom, brushing the stone walls of the village with a soft, golden hue. Birds stirred in the trees, their distant calls echoing across the mist-covered fields. Smoke curled from the chimneys of thatched cottages, thin and steady, drifting like pale ribbons into the crisp morning air. The village lay on the edge of the kingdom, quiet and unassuming, yet it held within it the faint heartbeat of a land that time had nearly forgotten. A narrow cobblestone path wound its way through the village square, worn smooth by countless footsteps over generations. Here and there, carts lay abandoned, their wooden wheels creaking faintly in the morning breeze. Children, still clinging to the remnants of sleep, sat by the wells, their small hands brushing the cool surface of the water as they whispered to each other, unaware of the larger journey that stirred beyond the horizon. In one of the stone cottages, a single figure stirred, a young man named Elias, though his youth was tempered by the quiet knowledge of his home, stepped carefully onto the wooden floor. His gaze drifted to the window, where the sun painted the distant forest in muted golds and greens. He could see the silhouettes of the trees stretching toward the sky, each branch trembling in the gentle wind. Somewhere beyond them, the Forgotten Kingdom awaited, its ruins and secrets hidden by time and shadow, whispered about only in tales and old songs. Elias dressed slowly, pulling on a worn tunic and a belt that had seen better days. His boots, patched many times over, hugged his feet with familiarity. Outside, the village was beginning to wake, the clatter of pots from kitchens, the soft murmur of neighbors greeting each other, the occasional bark of a dog. Yet Elias heard none of it, for his mind was already far away, drawn to the horizon where the world seemed to tilt and stretch toward infinity. He stepped outside, feeling the chill of the morning dew soaking through his boots. The scent of wet earth, mingled with smoke and the faint perfume of wildflowers, filled his lungs. The villagers moved about their morning routines, some pausing to glance at him curiously, sensing the unusual quiet determination in his steps. Elias walked toward the village edge, where the fields opened into rolling hills that led to the first dense wood of the kingdom. As he walked, he remembered the stories his grandmother had told him, sitting by the fire with its warm, flickering glow. She had spoken of kings and queens long gone, of battles that reshaped lands and hearts alike, of treasures hidden beneath stones and in secret hollows. Each story had seemed distant, almost fantastical, yet the spark of curiosity had never left him. Those tales had ignited a longing to see, to feel, to witness what lay beyond the safe confines of the village and the familiar hills. The sun climbed higher, brushing the landscape with a warmth that kissed the cold dew and set the fields shimmering. Birds took flight, circling and diving with carefree abandon. Elias paused for a moment, letting the wind tousle his dark hair. He could hear the distant hum of the river beyond the forest, its waters moving steadily, quietly, a silent witness to centuries of history. Each sound, each movement of nature seemed to call to him, inviting him to step forward into the unknown. By the time he reached the forest's edge, the trees towered above him, ancient and patient. Their trunks were thick, gnarled with age, and their leaves formed a dense canopy that filtered the sunlight into scattered golden fragments. Shadows danced lightly on the moss-covered ground, and the smell of damp earth and pine filled the air. Elias paused again, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of both anticipation and calm settling over him. Here, at the boundary between the familiar and the unknown, the journey truly began. He placed one hand on the rough bark of a tree and felt its cool solidity, a grounding presence in a world that felt suddenly vast and infinite. Each step forward into the forest was measured, deliberate. The path was narrow, covered with fallen leaves and the occasional exposed root. Birds flitted between branches, and somewhere a small creature rustled through the underbrush. Elias barely noticed these details consciously, yet they became part of a rhythm, a meditation of motion that carried him deeper and deeper into the kingdom's embrace. As he walked, the village behind him began to disappear from view, swallowed slowly by the rolling hills and thickening forest. The noise of human life faded into a soft hum, leaving only the sounds of nature and the quiet pulse of his own heartbeat. The horizon stretched endlessly ahead, a line that shimmered faintly in the morning haze, promising secrets and stories hidden for centuries. Elias's thoughts drifted to what lay beyond, wondering what ruins, what hidden chambers, what whispers of history might await him in the forgotten corners of the kingdom. By midday, he had entered a small clearing where sunlight poured generously, highlighting the wildflowers and grasses that had grown untended for years. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves and stirred the flowers, carrying with it the distant scent of stone and moss from hidden ruins. Here, in this calm, quiet space, Elias paused to rest, letting his gaze sweep across the distant horizon. It was a view both humbling and exhilarating. Rolling hills, thick forests, and the faint outline of what might be an abandoned watchtower far away, just barely visible through the morning haze. Elias knew then that his journey had only just begun. Each step he had taken, each breath drawn in the still morning air, had brought him closer to the forgotten kingdom and to the stories he had longed to touch. With one final glance at the village far behind him, he adjusted his pack, set his shoulders square, and took the first step forward, deeper into the mysteries that awaited beyond the distant horizon. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the echoes of centuries, and Elias, with a quiet determination, stepped fully into the unknown. The journey had begun.
The forest grew deeper and more silent as Elias walked. The morning light now filtered into soft beams through the thick canopy overhead. Every step he took seemed to echo faintly, as though the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting. His eyes caught every detail, the moss clinging to gnarled roots, the delicate trail of a small animal, the quiet shiver of leaves in the wind. And yet, beyond these ordinary things, there was something else, a faint, almost imperceptible resonance, a hum that whispered of history, of stories long forgotten. Elias paused, kneeling beside a patch of earth that looked slightly disturbed, as if someone or something had turned the soil centuries ago. His fingers traced the outline of an uneven surface, and when he brushed away the dirt, a glimmer of metal emerged. He dug carefully with his hands, brushing away layers of soil until a small, ornate object appeared, a pendant of tarnished silver, etched with symbols that he did not recognize, but somehow understood. It was delicate, yet strangely heavy with the weight of time. The pendant seemed to pulse faintly in his palm, not with light or magic, but with the stories it had carried for generations. Each curve and etching whispered of hands that had held it before him, of lives long extinguished, of dreams and fears that had lived and died in the kingdom that now lay forgotten. Elias could almost hear their voices in the wind, faint echoes carried from centuries past. He replaced the pendant carefully in his bag, aware that he had stumbled upon something more than a mere trinket. He had uncovered a fragment of the past itself. He continued walking, each step leading him further into the heart of the forest, where shadows grew longer and the air thickened with the scent of earth and decay. Here and there, the ground was littered with broken pottery, cracked and faded with time. Elias picked up a shard, running his fingers over its smooth, worn edges, feeling the craftsmanship that had gone into it. He could imagine the hands that had shaped it, the quiet conversations, the laughter, the tears, all frozen within this fragment. Everywhere he looked, the past seemed to press against the present, like a thin veil barely separating two worlds. He found a fragment of a leather-bound book, its pages brittle but still intact. Carefully he opened it, the scent of age rising like a whisper in his nose. The letters were faded, almost indecipherable, yet their arrangement spoke of intention, of thought, of stories told for the ears of generations yet to come. Elias traced the words with his fingers, though he could not read them fully, feeling instead the rhythm of a mind long gone, trying to reach him across centuries. In the center of a small clearing, he discovered the remains of an old shrine, hidden beneath tangled roots and vines. Stone steps, partially buried, led to a flat platform, and on it rested a broken statue. The head was missing, but the hands, still raised in a gesture of reverence, conveyed a quiet dignity. Elias approached carefully, his footsteps muted by the thick carpet of moss. He ran his hand over the rough stone, feeling the grooves and scratches that time had left behind. Each mark was a story, a testament to a life that had sought to honor something greater than itself. The whispers of the past grew stronger here, in this sacred space. Elias could almost hear the faint hum of chants, soft and rhythmic, like the wind through the trees. He closed his eyes, letting the sounds wash over him, imagining the people who had once knelt here, their faces lifted toward the heavens, their voices blending into a single, timeless song. For a moment, he felt as if he were not alone, as if the spirits of the kingdom had gathered around him, curious and cautious, guiding him forward through the forgotten stories of their world. As he explored further, Elias noticed a series of carvings on the stone platform, tiny figures etched in intricate detail, depicting scenes of everyday life, celebrations, and battles. The artistry was exquisite, each figure animated with a sense of movement and purpose. He crouched down to examine them, tracing the lines with his fingers. In these carvings, he saw a reflection of the kingdom itself, its joys, its sorrows, its triumphs and defeats. He realized that even in its silence, even in its decay, the kingdom had preserved its memory in stone, leaving messages for those willing to look and listen. The sun had climbed higher now, filtering through the thick canopy in dappled golden patches. Elias moved carefully along a narrow path that led away from the shrine, finding more relics partially buried beneath years of neglect. A small rusted sword, its hilt carved with floral patterns, lay in the roots of an ancient oak. He lifted it gently, feeling the cold weight of history in his hands. It was not a weapon to fight with anymore, but a key to understanding, a link to the lives of those who had walked these lands before him. Every object he discovered, every fragment of the past he unearthed, seemed to carry a story that demanded no words. Elias felt as if the kingdom itself was speaking to him, not through voices or sound, but through the presence of what remained, the careful shaping of metal and stone, the patterns etched in pottery, the hidden shrines, and the quiet hush of the forest that had preserved these treasures. He began to understand that history was not only written in books or sung in songs, it was alive in the world around him, waiting for a witness. As the day wore on, Elias paused to rest in a small clearing where sunlight poured through the trees in gentle beams. He looked around, surveying the treasures he had uncovered, and felt a sense of awe. The whispers of the past were no longer distant. They were companions, guiding him, encouraging him to continue. He knew that this journey was only beginning, that the kingdom held countless secrets still hidden beneath layers of dust and time. With a deep breath, he rose to his feet, feeling a quiet determination settle in his chest. The path forward was unclear, but he could sense that each step would reveal more of the stories waiting to be remembered. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Elias adjusted his pack and continued forward. The relics he had discovered, though silent, spoke volumes. They reminded him that even in decay, even in silence, history endures. And as he ventured deeper into the forgotten kingdom, he realized that he was not merely exploring. It was as if the past itself had called him, eager to share its long-held secrets. The whispers of the past surrounded him, a quiet, persistent chorus of voices that had waited centuries to be heard. Elias stepped carefully, reverently into the unfolding story, knowing that with each discovery, he was not only witnessing history, he was becoming a part of it. The forest stretched endlessly, a thick, shadowed canopy that swallowed the light of the rising sun. Each tree stood like a silent sentinel, ancient and unmoving, their bark etched with the passage of centuries. Elias stepped carefully over tangled roots and patches of moss that cushioned the forest floor. The air was cool, damp, and heavy with the scent of earth and pine, carrying with it the faint echo of stories long forgotten. Every sound seemed amplified, the distant call of a bird, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the snap of a twig beneath his boots. But somehow the forest remained overwhelmingly quiet, as if holding its breath for something yet to come. The deeper Elias walked, the more the forest seemed to shift around him. Sunlight filtered through the dense branches in thin golden beams, illuminating patches of ferns and wildflowers that grew untamed among the shadows. He noticed small animals scurrying just out of reach, their movements fleeting and cautious, as if aware of a presence far older than his own. There was a sense of both wonder and unease in the air, the kind that makes the hairs on the back of one's neck rise, yet invites the heart to keep moving forward. As he ventured further, Elias came upon a clearing unlike any he had seen before. It was small, circular, and encased by towering oaks and maples whose roots interwove like a natural barrier. In the center lay a fallen stone, partially covered with moss, its surface carved with intricate symbols that he did not recognize. He knelt beside it, tracing the carvings with his fingertips, feeling the smooth grooves worn by wind, rain, and decades of neglect. The stone seemed to hum faintly beneath his touch, a vibration of time itself, whispering secrets in a language lost to the modern ear. The forest grew darker as he continued, shadows stretching and twisting around him, creating the illusion of movement where there was none. Elias felt a chill run down his spine, yet he pressed forward, drawn by a quiet determination he did not fully understand. Here, in the heart of the forest, the world felt suspended between reality and memory, as though every leaf, every fallen branch held a fragment of history waiting to be discovered. He stumbled upon a narrow stream, its waters moving with a soft, melodic murmur. Kneeling by its edge, Elias cupped the cold water in his hands and drank, feeling it rejuvenate him after hours of careful walking. The stream wound through the forest like a silver thread, reflecting patches of sky and light in its gentle ripples. Along its banks, he noticed pieces of pottery and small bones, relics perhaps of travelers long gone, or offerings left behind by those who had once revered this hidden place. Every object he touched carried the faint resonance of a story, lives lived, journeys taken, secrets kept. Elias followed the stream deeper into the forest, where the trees became older, their trunks thicker and twisted with age. The ground was littered with fallen leaves that muffled his footsteps, creating an almost eerie silence. Occasionally, a bird would take flight, startled by his presence, its wings beating softly before disappearing into the canopy. He paused often, not from exhaustion, but from a sense of reverence. This forest was alive in ways the village had never been. It was a place where the past lingered, pressing gently against the present, inviting him to listen, to observe, to understand. As afternoon light waned, he discovered what seemed to be an ancient path marked by faint stones peeking through the undergrowth. The path was uneven and overgrown, yet it beckoned him onward. Elias walked slowly, aware that each step might reveal something long buried, some hidden truth waiting for the right eyes to find it. He thought of the stories his grandmother had told him, of knights and kings, of battles fought and secrets kept, and he realized that perhaps some of those tales had their roots in forests just like this, quiet, imposing, and full of memory. In a small hollow beneath a massive oak, Elias found a relic unlike anything he had encountered before, a small rusted chest bound in iron and partially fused to the soil by time. Carefully, he pried it open, revealing fragments of parchment, faded cloth, and a handful of small polished stones. The parchments bore drawings of strange symbols, maps of lands he had never seen, and sketches of creatures half remembered in folklore. Elias could not read all the symbols, but their careful arrangement, their meticulous design spoke of intelligence, of purpose, of a civilization that had once flourished here and left its mark upon the world. The air grew colder as the shadows deepened, the forest seeming to shift subtly with each step. Elias felt a strange sense of being watched, though no creature appeared in sight. He understood instinctively that the forest itself was a witness, guarding the secrets it held with a quiet patience born of centuries. He allowed himself to pause and breathe deeply, letting the silence envelop him, feeling the pulse of the forest sync with his own heartbeat. In this stillness, he realized that the forest was not merely a physical place, it was a living archive, a repository of memory, a guardian of truths waiting to be uncovered. By the time the sun began to dip behind the horizon, casting long, stretched shadows across the forest floor, Elias had explored the clearing, the stream, and the path with the chest. He felt the weight of the forest stories pressing gently upon him, urging him to continue, to seek the truths hidden beyond the next bend, the next rise, the next shadowed thicket. Though he did not yet understand the full significance of what he had found, he knew that the forest had chosen to reveal fragments of its past to him, fragments that would shape the journey ahead. As night fell, Elias found a small sheltered spot beneath the branches of an ancient oak and settled down to rest. The forest whispered around him, the rustle of leaves, a faint hum of insects, the distant cry of a night bird, all blending into a gentle lullaby. He felt a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing one has glimpsed a truth that is larger than oneself, a truth that stretches across time and space, carried in the silent witness of a forest that had seen centuries pass. With his eyes closing, Elias allowed himself to drift into the calm embrace of the silent forest, aware that tomorrow would bring more discovery, more revelation, more pieces of a forgotten kingdom slowly unfolding before him. And as sleep began to overtake him, the forest seemed to sigh softly, as if acknowledging the presence of someone who had finally come to listen. The forest began to thin as Elias pressed onward, though the shadows lingered like ghosts among the trees. After hours of careful walking, the dense foliage gave way to a narrow valley where the ground sloped gently downward. Mist hovered in the low areas, curling around roots and stones, and the air carried a faint, sweet scent of wild herbs. There was a stillness here that felt deliberate, almost sacred, as if the valley itself had been waiting for centuries to reveal what lay hidden within. Elias's eyes caught the outline of stone walls in the distance, partially obscured by thick ivy and tangled vines. At first, he thought it might be a ruin, another relic of a forgotten time. But as he approached, the structure became clearer. It was a monastery, secluded and secret, built with precise stonework that had weathered the years remarkably well. Its towers rose like silent sentinels, and its narrow windows reflected the fading light with a faint shimmer. The monastery was a place untouched by ordinary travelers, preserved in a quiet seclusion that made it seem almost otherworldly. The path to the monastery was overgrown, narrow and uneven, forcing Elias to step carefully over moss-covered stones and roots. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from fatigue, but from the weight of anticipation. The air seemed to thrum with the accumulated presence of generations who had walked these halls, prayed beneath these arches, and carried out lives devoted to something larger than themselves. He could almost hear the faint echoes of chants, distant and rhythmic, carried through the valley by the wind. At the monastery's entrance, a pair of massive wooden doors stood closed, bound with iron hinges that had rusted into the patina of centuries. Elias paused, feeling a strange reverence. With careful hands, he pushed the doors open, and a low creak resonated through the empty stone courtyard. The interior was dimly lit by shafts of light streaming through narrow stained glass windows, the colors muted by years of dust and neglect. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, catching the faint light, giving the hall an almost ethereal glow. Inside, the monastery was a labyrinth of corridors, staircases, and cloistered halls. The air smelled of old wood, stone, and faint incense, a reminder of the rituals that must have been performed here long ago. Elias moved slowly, his footsteps echoing against the cold stone floors. The silence was profound, yet not empty. It was alive, carrying the presence of those who had devoted their lives to study, prayer, and contemplation. As he explored further, he discovered a small library tucked away in one of the upper halls. Shelves, some bowed with age, were filled with leather-bound books and scrolls, their pages brittle but carefully preserved. Elias ran his fingers over the spines, feeling the texture of worn leather and faded gilding. Some of the books contained handwritten notes, sketches of symbols, and meticulous records of events long past. Each volume was a window into the lives of those who had inhabited this place, their thoughts and beliefs etched into ink and parchment, waiting for someone to uncover them. In the central courtyard, a stone fountain stood, dry now, but still intricately carved with symbols that mirrored those Elias had found in the forest. He knelt beside it, tracing the designs with his fingers, and felt the strange weight of history settle over him. Here, in this secluded monastery, the past was tangible, not in whispers or echoes alone, but in the very stone, in the objects left behind by those who had walked these halls with purpose and devotion. Elias's exploration led him to a small chapel at the heart of the monastery. Its walls were lined with faded frescoes depicting saints, warriors, and scenes of daily life from centuries past. Though the colors had dulled, the artistry remained, each figure frozen in a gesture that seemed almost alive, almost aware of the visitor who had wandered into their sanctuary. Elias sat on a worn wooden pew, letting the silence envelop him, and felt an inexplicable connection to the generations who had knelt here, seeking guidance, forgiveness, or simply a moment of quiet reflection. The monastery was not without its mysteries. In a narrow corridor beneath the chapel, Elias discovered a hidden door, partially concealed by shadows. With careful effort, he pushed the door open, and it revealed a small chamber untouched by time. Inside were relics and artifacts, some ceremonial, others mundane, yet each carried the weight of purpose. A small iron key lay atop a carved wooden box, alongside a collection of scrolls bound with faded ribbons. Elias picked up a scroll and unrolled it carefully, revealing a map of the kingdom as it had existed centuries ago. Paths, settlements, and fortresses were marked with intricate detail, some familiar, others unknown. The map seemed to whisper of secrets waiting to be uncovered, of history that had been hidden by time and obscurity. As twilight approached, the colors of the stained glass windows deepened, casting a spectrum of muted reds, blues, and golds across the stone floors. Elias paused in the main hall, looking back toward the entrance he had passed hours before. Outside, the forest darkened, the shadows stretching and shifting with the fading light. Yet inside the monastery, there was a strange warmth, a quiet assurance that the secrets he had glimpsed were only the beginning. The monastery had preserved the memory of the kingdom, safeguarding stories, relics, and knowledge that would guide him deeper into the forgotten lands. Before settling down for the night in one of the monastery's modest rooms, Elias took one last walk through the cloistered halls. He ran his hands along the cold stone, imagining the monks who had once lived here, their voices rising in song or prayer, their lives intertwined with the history of the kingdom. The monastery, hidden and silent for centuries, had revealed itself not merely as a building, but as a guardian of memory, a keeper of truths that the forest and the ruins alone could not convey. As sleep claimed him, Elias felt the weight and wonder of what lay ahead, knowing that the whispers of the forgotten kingdom would continue to guide him deeper into shadows, into mysteries, and into truths yet to be uncovered.
The forest beyond the hidden monastery gave way to a rocky hillside where jagged cliffs rose like ancient guardians against the sky. Elias climbed carefully, each step sending loose stones skittering down the slopes, the sound swallowed quickly by the dense woods below. The air was cooler here, carrying the faint scent of lichen and damp stone, mingled with the ever-present fragrance of moss and pine. It was a place that demanded caution, yet also promised discovery, as though the land itself whispered that it had waited centuries for someone to notice the patterns carved into its heart. At the summit, Elias discovered the ruins of a fortress, half swallowed by the earth and time. Stone walls jutted at odd angles, some standing proudly despite the ravages of weather, others crumbled into piles of rubble and moss. He approached slowly, tracing his hand along the carved surfaces. Each block seemed to bear a history of its own. Scratches from the tools of long-dead builders, faint marks of siege or battle, tiny inscriptions that could only be seen up close. The fortress was not merely a structure, it was a testament, a living record etched into the landscape itself. Among the fallen stones, Elias noticed something unusual, a series of carvings that were more intricate than the rest. They depicted figures in motion, warriors in combat, villagers at work, nobles in ceremony. The lines were sharp, precise, almost as if the artist had captured movement frozen in stone. He knelt, brushing the moss away to reveal more of the detail. There were symbols interspersed among the scenes, spirals, triangles, crosses, and shapes he did not recognize. Their purpose was unclear, but the deliberate care with which they were executed suggested that they carried meaning, a message from the past meant to survive long after the hands that carved them had turned to dust. Elias explored further, walking along a collapsed wall where the carvings continued in a sequence, almost like chapters in a story. Each block seemed to lead naturally to the next, guiding the eye, the mind, and in a subtle way, the heart. Here was a narrative preserved in stone, not written with ink, but engraved with patience and intent. He ran his fingers along the lines, imagining the artisans who had labored for months, perhaps years, to etch these images and symbols, unaware of who might one day come to witness their work. In a small alcove, partially hidden from view, Elias discovered a tablet of dark stone. Its surface was smooth, and on it was etched a map of the surrounding lands, marking rivers, hills, and settlements that had long since vanished. He crouched beside it, tracing the contours with his fingers, feeling a strange resonance in his chest. The map spoke of journeys, of borders that had shifted with the passage of time, of kingdoms that had risen and fallen, and of secrets buried deep beneath the soil and stone. Nearby, a pile of rubble revealed another hidden carving. It was smaller, subtle, almost easy to miss, a figure of a woman holding a child, her expression gentle yet somber. Elias felt a pang of recognition, though he did not know why. There was something in the detail, in the curve of her shoulders, in the tilt of her head, that spoke of love, sacrifice, and memory. Perhaps she was a mother who had lost everything to war, or perhaps a symbol of the kingdom itself, fragile yet enduring. The stone did not offer answers, only questions that pressed gently against the mind. As the wind picked up as Elias moved along the upper walls, it carried with it the faint echo of voices long gone. He paused, listening, though he knew that these sounds were more than memory. They were the forest, the stones, and the air itself, speaking in a language older than words. Somewhere in the distance, a bird cried, its call sharp against the quiet murmur of the wind. Elias felt a thrill of anticipation, knowing that each discovery, each carved stone, brought him closer to the heart of the forgotten kingdom's secrets. As the day wore on, Elias uncovered a series of chambers partially buried beneath collapsed walls. Their entrances were narrow, the ceilings low, but within lay remnants of a civilization that had been meticulous and deliberate. Stone benches lined the walls, and small basins carved into the floors hinted at ritual or daily practice. Among the debris were fragments of tablets, broken and worn, yet etched with patterns that suggested messages, warnings, or instructions. Elias picked up one fragment, turning it over his hands, feeling the precision of the chisel strokes. Even in its broken state, it carried meaning, a fragment of the kingdom's memory, resilient through centuries. Beyond the chambers, Elias discovered a staircase leading downward, partially hidden by rubble. He hesitated, aware that the darkness below might conceal danger, yet drawn irresistibly by curiosity. The steps were uneven, slick with moss, and descended into a subterranean space carved directly from the rock. Here, the walls were covered with inscriptions, denser than any he had seen above ground. Symbols, figures, and abstract patterns overlapped, creating a tapestry of memory that seemed almost alive. He traced the shapes with his fingers, letting the cold stone speak to him, conveying stories that words could not capture. The underground chamber opened into a wide hall, its ceiling supported by arches of stone, each decorated with mythical creatures and heroic figures. The air was cooler here, damp with the scent of earth and stone, and yet it carried an undeniable energy. Elias could almost sense the presence of those who built this place, their hands steady, their minds focused, their hearts dedicated to preserving something far greater than themselves. Here, the kingdom left its indelible mark, a record of history, belief, and memory carved into the very bones of the earth. By twilight, Elias emerged from the chambers carrying the fragments he had found, his mind alive with the stories the stones had shared.
The fortress was no longer merely a ruin. It had become a teacher, guiding him through centuries of history with silent, deliberate patience. He gazed out across the rolling hills, the forest beyond, and the distant monastery, understanding that the stones had led him here not by chance, but by design. Each carving, each tablet, each fragment was a whisper from the past, urging him forward, promising that the secrets of the kingdom were far from fully revealed. As he settled among the stones for the night, the wind rustling softly through the broken walls, he felt a profound connection to the past. The fortress, the carvings, and the hidden chambers were not just remnants of a forgotten kingdom. They were a bridge linking him to lives, stories, and truths that had waited centuries to be discovered. And as he closed his eyes beneath the stars, he realized that each step he had taken into the shadows of time had only deepened the journey, guiding him ever closer to the heart of the kingdom's enduring mysteries. The sun had barely risen when Elias set out from the fortress ruins, his pack heavy with fragments of stone, maps, and memories of centuries past. The air was crisp and carried the faint scent of pine and damp earth. Beyond the hills, a narrow, winding path emerged, carved into the side of a rocky incline. It was overgrown in places, with jagged roots and loose stones threatening every step, yet something about the trail demanded to be followed. The locals might have called it impassable, but Elias felt a quiet certainty that this path, though treacherous, would lead him closer to the heart of the forgotten kingdom. The path began with a steep climb, each step requiring careful placement. Loose gravel shifted under his weight, and the wind whistled sharply through the narrow chasms between cliffs. Yet with each step, Elias felt a strange rhythm in the air, a cadence that seemed to guide his movements. The forested slopes on either side grew denser, and faint whispers of water hinted at hidden streams beneath the foliage. Small animals darted between the rocks. Their fleeting shadows reminded him of life persisting quietly amidst danger. After an hour of climbing, Elias reached the first trial, a narrow stone bridge stretching across a deep ravine. The wood had long since rotted away, leaving only the original stone slabs, worn smooth by centuries of passage. Below, the gorge yawned, shadowed and seemingly bottomless, the wind howling through its depths like the breath of ancient spirits. Elias inched forward, testing each slab with his foot, feeling the vibrations travel up through his legs. The stones bore faint carvings, lines and symbols he recognized from the fortress. They seemed to pulse with a quiet warning, a reminder that every step forward required focus, patience, and reverence for the past. Across the bridge, the path twisted into a dense grove of towering trees. Their trunks were wide and gnarled, and their branches interlocked to form a living canopy, muting the sunlight to a soft green twilight. The forest floor was uneven, littered with roots that could trip the unwary, yet Elias pressed on, guided by an instinct he could not name. Here, the trial became one of observation and discernment. Every shadow, every shift in light, every pattern of moss and stone held a clue, a direction, or a warning. The whispers of the past seemed to grow louder, carried not in sound, but in the feeling of presence, the sense that the forest itself was alive with history. Hours passed, and the path grew steeper, winding along rocky ledges where a single misstep could send a traveler plummeting into darkness. Elias paused often, breathing slowly, letting his eyes adjust to the shifting light. At one point, he discovered a cluster of carvings etched into the rock face, a series of faces, each with a different expression: joy, sorrow, anger, and serenity. He realized they were not merely decorative. Each face represented a challenge faced by those who had traveled this path long before him. Courage in the face of fear, patience in the midst of uncertainty, clarity amid confusion. The path was as much a test of mind and heart as it was of body. Further along, he encountered a narrow canyon where the walls closed in sharply, leaving only a slender passage. The light faded and the air grew colder. The rocks here were slick with moss and moisture, and small streams trickled down the walls, forming miniature waterfalls that echoed softly. Elias moved cautiously, pressing his hand against the stone for balance. The whispers of the past were nearly tangible here, a low, persistent hum that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. He realized that every echo, every vibration was a part of the trial. The path was teaching him to listen, to feel, to become attuned to the hidden rhythms of the kingdom. At the canyon's end, a small plateau opened onto a wider valley. Here, Elias found the remnants of ancient statues, toppled and broken, yet still exuding a quiet dignity. They depicted warriors and scholars, artisans and monks, each frozen in a gesture of purpose. Between them were scattered relics, fragments of pottery, iron tools, and small carved figures. Elias knelt among the ruins, examining each piece carefully. It was a reminder that every journey leaves traces, that every trial shapes those who walk it, and that history is carried forward not just in monuments, but in the lessons embedded within them. The final trial revealed itself in the form of a series of stepping stones across a fast-moving river, the water frothing around jagged rocks. The river was narrow enough to cross, yet the current was strong and unpredictable. Elias studied the stones, noting which were steady and which threatened to shift under weight. With careful balance, he stepped from one to the next, feeling the river's energy tug at his feet. Each stone carried a carved symbol, echoing those from the fortress and the forest. It was as if the path itself was guiding him, connecting every trial he had faced into a coherent story of courage, patience, and insight. Once across, Elias paused to rest, surveying the landscape that stretched before him. Rolling hills, dense forests, and distant mountains painted a picture of timeless beauty. He realized that the path of trials was not merely a test of endurance, it was a way to attune oneself to the heartbeat of the kingdom, to listen to its silent narratives, to understand its secrets hidden in stone, forest, and fortress. Every challenge he had faced had been a lesson, every obstacle a whisper of wisdom passed down through generations. As dusk settled, Elias found a sheltered alcove beneath an overhanging cliff. The trials of the day weighed on his body, yet his mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. The path had stripped away distractions, forced him to focus on each movement, each sensation, each discovery. The forest, the cliffs, the river, they were no longer mere obstacles. They were teachers, and he, a student ready to learn from the kingdom's enduring presence. He lay down on the rocky ground, listening to the wind whisper through the trees and across the stone. The river's murmur below blended with the distant calls of birds settling for the night. Elias felt a quiet sense of fulfillment and anticipation. He had faced the trials, navigated the challenges, and emerged not only unscathed, but more deeply connected to the forgotten kingdom.
He knew that ahead lay further mysteries waiting to be revealed to those patient and observant enough to see them, and with that thought, he allowed sleep to wash over him, the trials of the day dissolving into the gentle embrace of night.
The morning mist lingered over the valley as Elias set out from the plateau, the memory of the river and the path of trials still vivid in his mind. Ahead, the terrain grew rugged, a series of limestone cliffs rising like the bones of some ancient, slumbering beast. Nestled among these cliffs was the entrance to a cave, its mouth yawning darkly against the gray stone. A faint wind whispered from within, carrying the scent of damp earth and mineral-rich stone. The cave seemed to hum, a low, resonant tone that vibrated faintly through the soles of Elias's boots. Stepping inside, the light immediately dimmed. The walls were slick with moisture, reflecting the faint glimmers of sun that managed to pierce the opening. Every footfall echoed endlessly, multiplying the sound in a hypnotic rhythm. Elias paused, listening as his own breathing seemed to merge with the echoes, becoming a part of the cave itself. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving and shifting as if alive, and the air felt charged with anticipation. The caves had waited long enough, and now someone had come to walk among their secrets. As he ventured deeper, the passage narrowed, forcing him to stoop beneath jagged stalactites and step over small pools of cold water that reflected the dim light like liquid mirrors. He traced his fingers along the rough limestone walls, feeling the contours shaped over millennia. Each groove, each fissure carried the weight of time, a silent record of countless storms, earthquakes, and the slow, inexorable passage of centuries. The cave was not simply a hollow in the rock. It was a living archive, a repository of memory carved by nature itself. Elias soon entered a wide chamber, its ceiling high and vaulted, adorned with natural formations resembling pillars and arches. The sound of his footsteps resonated with a haunting clarity, bouncing off walls that seemed to stretch farther than the eye could see. In the center of the chamber lay scattered stones, some bearing faint inscriptions. He knelt to examine one, tracing the carved symbols with his fingers. They mirrored those he had seen in the fortress and along the forest path, connecting the caves to the broader history of the Forgotten Kingdom. Each symbol carried a silent narrative, waiting for someone to decipher its message. A small stream ran along the floor of the chamber, its gentle babble blending with the cavern's echoes to create a soothing, rhythmic melody. He followed its course, discovering pools where water had carved smooth basins into the rock. In one, he glimpsed a reflection not just of himself, but of the cave itself, a distorted and mesmerizing image that seemed to hold layers of time within it. He realized that the caves were not simply passages, they were mirrors of history, echoing not only sound, but memory, repeating stories that had long been silenced elsewhere. Deeper still, the tunnel split into multiple branching paths, each darker and narrower than the last. Elias chose the middle route, drawn by a faint light that shimmered at its end. As he walked, the echoes grew more pronounced, carrying with them subtle variations, a whisper of voices, the faint scrape of stone, the imagined footfall of unseen travelers. He moved slowly, aware that the caves were teaching him patience, teaching him to listen not just with his ears, but with his mind, his heart, and the very soles of his feet. In a narrow alcove, he discovered a series of petroglyphs etched on the walls, their surfaces worn, yet unmistakably deliberate. They depicted scenes of rituals, processions, and gatherings, people offering gifts, striking symbols into stone, performing ceremonies beneath the watchful eyes of shadowed figures. Elias traced the lines with his fingertips, feeling the rhythm of intention behind each mark. These were the hands of a civilization seeking permanence, reaching across the centuries to speak to those who might come to understand. A sudden draft swept through the cave, carrying with it a chorus of faint sounds, a low hum, a distant drip of water, the subtle rustle of unseen wings. Elias froze, letting the echoes envelop him, noticing how the sounds overlapped, refracted, and multiplied in unpredictable ways. The cave seemed alive, aware of his presence, testing him, welcoming him, guiding him deeper into its labyrinthine halls. He moved forward, mindful that every choice of path, every step could lead to discovery or to a dead end. After what felt like hours, he emerged into the largest chamber yet, its ceiling stretching far above and walls lined with naturally formed columns that glimmered faintly with mineral deposits. Here he found a carved altar, partially obscured by shadows. Upon it rested a small, intricately carved box, bound with iron and etched with symbols that seemed familiar. He knelt, opening the box carefully, revealing fragments of parchment, small gemstones, and a delicate medallion. The items seemed deliberately placed, preserved for centuries, awaiting the hands of someone who could appreciate their significance. By twilight, Elias made his way back towards the cave's entrance, the echoes now a gentle accompaniment to his thoughts. Each sound, each shadow, each carved symbol had taught him something about the Forgotten Kingdom, not merely about its past, but about the patterns, the care, and the deliberate preservation of knowledge that carried forward through centuries. Outside, the forest stretched endlessly, bathed in golden light. He paused, looking back towards the dark mouth of the cave, grateful for the secrets it had shared, and aware that the journey ahead would demand even greater courage and understanding. As night fell, Elias set up a small camp just beyond the cave's entrance, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of streams. The echoing caves had tested him, revealed history, and whispered truths in ways that only those patient and observant enough could perceive. He closed his eyes beneath the stars, feeling the weight of the discoveries he had made and the promise of mysteries yet to come. Sleep embraced him slowly, carrying him into dreams of stone, shadow, and the endless passage of time.